The stock market just hit another all-time high. GDP is up. Unemployment is down. Every headline says the economy is thriving. And yet, you checked your bank account this morning and you felt it, that quiet, gnawing dread. The numbers don't lie, but they also don't match. Not your grocery bill, not your rent, not the way you had to think twice before filling up your gas tank last week. The official story says you should be fine, but you're not fine. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. That gap between the headlines and your bank balance, it isn't a glitch. It isn't your fault, and it isn't an accident. There's a reason the economy can boom and leave most people behind at the exact same time. And once you understand what that reason actually is, you can't unsee it. The rules of the game become visible, and visibility is where everything changes. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you isn't theory, it's the architecture of why you're broke, and exactly how to step outside of it. Here's the answer, right now, before I explain a single problem. You are broke because you are being paid in the wrong currency. Not dollars, not naira, not pounds. I mean this, the economy grows in assets. It pays most people in income. And income on its own will never keep pace with assets, ever. That's not a bug in the system, that's the system. The people who are not broke, the ones who seem immune to every recession, every inflation spike, every crisis, they are not smarter than you. They are not working harder than you. They are simply sitting on the side of the equation that grows while you're sitting on the side that shrinks. Your job is to move sides. If you are watching this right now, drop one word in the comments right now that describes how you feel about your finances. One word. Just say it. You'd be surprised how many people feel exactly the same. I know that sounds simple, maybe even frustratingly simple, but watch what happens when I walk you through the specific mechanisms that have kept you on the wrong side, because then you'll see exactly why that one shift is the only move that actually matters. Let's start with the number they always quote to you. GDP, gross domestic product. It goes up, they celebrate. The economy is growing, they say. But GDP doesn't measure your life. It measures the total economic output of a country. If a billionaire's portfolio doubles overnight, GDP goes up. If you get sick and spend everything on medical bills, GDP goes up. The number has almost nothing to do with whether the average person is better off. Meanwhile, wages, your wages, have been in a slow-motion stalemate for decades. Adjusted for inflation, the real purchasing power of the median worker in the US hasn't meaningfully grown since the 1970s. 50 years. The economy has roughly quadrupled. Your paycheck, in real terms, has barely moved. So where did all that growth go? Into assets, into property values, into stock portfolios, into the kind of wealth that compounds whether you're awake or asleep, not because of some magical financial trick, but because that's what assets do. They appreciate, they generate returns, they multiply. And here's where inflation enters the story, because inflation, the way it's reported, measures the rising cost of a basket of goods, but it doesn't measure the rising cost of assets, homes, stocks, land. Those aren't in a consumer price index. So when a central bank says inflation is under control at 3%, what they're not saying is that property values in major cities are up 15, 20, 30% in a year. If you own property, that's wealth creation. If you're renting, you're paying for someone else's wealth creation, month by month for years. Then there's the thing nobody talks about on finance channels because it's not comfortable. Lifestyle creep. You get a raise, you breathe, you upgrade something. Maybe it's a nicer apartment, a car that doesn't make that sound, subscriptions you technically don't need. The raise gets absorbed. The baseline rises, and you're back where you started, just with better Wi-Fi. This isn't weakness, it's psychology. Humans adapt upward constantly. We normalize comfort almost instantly. The research on hedonic adaptation is overwhelming. We return to a baseline level of satisfaction no matter what we acquire, which means more income without a structural shift in how that income is deployed will always find a way to disappear. Here's the real question, and I want you to sit with this for a second. When your income goes up, what percentage of that increase is going towards something that will be worth more in 10 years than it is today? For most people, that number is 0 or close to it, not because they're irresponsible, but because nobody taught them the difference between spending and deploying, between consuming income and converting it into something that lasts. And then there's the financial literacy gap, which isn't about not knowing what a stock is, it's about not knowing how the system is actually structured. The tax code rewards asset ownership, businesses can deduct expenses, investors pay capital gains rates lower than income tax rates. The rules were written by people who own assets for people who own assets. None of that makes it evil, it makes it knowable, and knowledge is the only competitive advantage that compounds without limit. Now let's go back to what I told you at the start. You are broke because you are being paid in the wrong currency, in income instead of assets. Watch how that one truth dissolves every piece of the problem I just walked you through. The GDP gap? It exists because GDP growth flows to asset holders. The solution isn't to earn more, it's to become an asset holder, even in small, incremental, totally unglamorous ways. A fractional share of an index fund is an asset. A small piece of real estate through a REIT is an asset. A side business with systems that generate revenue when you're not actively working, that's an asset. You don't need to be rich to start. You need to start to become rich. Wage stagnation? Real wages may be flat, but asset returns have compounded at 7 to 10% annually over most of the last century. You cannot outrun inflation with income. You can absolutely outpace it with compounding returns, but only if you're in the game. Inflation hitting you harder than the headlines suggest? Assets hedge inflation. Historically, when the cost of living rises, so does the value of real estate and equity. If you own those things, inflation is working for you. If you only own income, inflation is quietly taxing you in ways that never show up on your pay stub. Lifestyle creep, the antidote isn't to deprive yourself, it's to automate. Every time your income increases, route a percentage before you touch it, before your brain adopts to it, directly into an asset-building vehicle, an index fund, a retirement account, a property deposit fund, before the new baseline gets set, before the psychology kicks in. Automation is the only thing faster than hedonic adaptation. The financial literacy gap, you're closing it right now, but let me be specific about what matters most. You don't need to understand every financial instrument. You need to understand one thing deeply: the difference between assets and liabilities, between things that put money in your pocket over time and things that take it out. That distinction, applied consistently, will do more for your financial trajectory than any investment tip, any savings hack, or side hustle listicle you've ever read. The economy will keep booming on paper, metrics will keep hitting records, and most people will keep feeling the exact same way you felt when you clicked on this video. Frustrated, confused, quietly falling behind despite doing everything they were told. The ones who break out of that won't do it by working harder on the wrong side of the equation. They'll do it by switching sides. Not overnight, not all at once, but deliberately, consistently, with the understanding that the game has rules, and the rules are learnable. If something in this video just made something click, if the equation shifted for you even slightly, hit subscribe, not as a favor to me, as a commitment to yourself to keep learning the language that the people at the top of that equation have always spoken. This channel exists to translate it. Here's where I want to leave you. Not with a list, not with 5 steps, with a single frame. Every dollar you earn is either passing through you or it's working for you. Right now, today, every single dollar is doing one of those 2 things. There is no middle ground. The economy doesn't care about you. It doesn't care about your hours or your effort or your loyalty to a company that will restructure the moment it's convenient. But it responds perfectly, mechanically, impassively to the rules it runs on. Learn the rules, play by them, move sides. That's it. That's the whole thing. Everything else is detail. Tell me in the comments, what's one thing you're going to do differently after watching this? It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be perfect, just one move. Drop it below and read what other people say. You might find the accountability you didn't know you needed. And if you know someone who's been staring at their bank account, feeling that gap between what the headlines say and what their life feels like, send them this video, because the truth doesn't help anyone if it stays in one place. Subscribe if you haven't. There's more of this coming, and it only gets more specific from here.